The Law Society has slammed notices sent to 4 universities to jack up standards or risk losing their LLB courses. The Council on Higher Education issued a stern warning to the universities to conform within 6 months.
I think it will affect the university. I think outside the law faculty, there's a funding issue.
It's been 112 years since Enoch Sontonga died as a relatively unknown composer, choir master and teacher. But today his legacy lives on through his greatest composition, Nkosi Sikeleli Afrika.
For all your news updates, stay tuned to Your World from Monday to Sunday.
It's 900 hours Central Africa time, coming from the bright lights here in Johannesburg on this Tuesday, the 28th of November 2017, Jumbo Africa. A very good morning. My name is Elvis Preslin. Now, we will be with you until 12 o'clock today. Now, on the poll today, we're looking at the Department of Water and Sanitation. Kendall, it's a shocking story. They say they'll do their best to ensure that consumers are not affected by the water cuts that is pending and will be imposed on municipalities that are not paying for their water.
I tell you, the timing could not be worse. We're about to go into the Christmas break, but I want to find out from you, who should be held responsible for the pending water cuts? Municipalities, water boards, or consumers?
Well, there you have a 218 vote scandal, and 65% are suggesting that the municipalities, they are the culprits. Water boards only 17% and 18% the residents themselves.
Yeah, but an overwhelming majority has put the blame squarely at the door of the municipalities. Judd P says it doesn't sound fair because even the law-abiding residents in those affected municipalities are in trouble.
And that's so true. You'll be paying and I won't be paying, but we will be both affected. The Khasa says ministers of water and sanitation, Minister Nomvula Mokonyane, once said, "Let the rand drop, we will pick it up." We are in a water crisis because of her. So what are you suggesting, Lachasa, that she must pick up the water?
Yeah, no, I think he's talking about the kind of mentality that would get a cabinet minister to make that kind of statement.
Those are your comments, but you can keep them coming. We'll read them as we continue, but it's also a very important story that we're still focusing on the Life Isidameni arbitration process. Now, the suspended head of Gauteng Health Department, Dr. Barney Salabano, is refusing to appear before the hearings. And that's why we're asking you this question.
I think he's been following them very closely on 404, and he doesn't want to taste of what his former colleague is going through. Elsa Malan says, Life Isidameni Museneke, they must all appear. They must all be held accountable, and if found guilty, then charge them accordingly. Should they refuse, then jail them. They're not above the law, says Elsa Malan.
Zwandile says, subpoena him. Well, it's going to court. He was subpoenaed, as you know, but he's going to court this morning. It's an urgent matter, and they're going to look into that. We'll keep you updated on that story, and we'll go there live to the Life Isidameni arbitration process a little bit later. Yeah. But as usual, we have a sports question, and it's a sad one this morning.
It's a sad one today. We're talking about this great broadcast legend, Clement Manya Pelo, who passed away on the 22nd of November. And as you know, today is his memorial service that the SABC is hosting out in Mafikeng. And want you to please send us your messages of support for Clement Manya Pelo's friends and family.
But we have Lebo on the other side of the line, Kendall.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
we're going to be chatting to her shortly.
Ngwenya says, rest in peace, the man with the super voice on SABC. You can remember him with the nicknames that he gave to our players. Mzanzi's #1, Festival Matlab, Modimo Wabolo, Brahomslompo, etc. Rest in peace, Lebo.
No, he was a poet with his words. This man had a silver tongue, and he could broadcast like no other. Dr. Moses Bilani says, may God our Lord give you strength in these tough times. Well,
and as you know that we're going to cover that event a little bit later, and Kendall?
Yeah, we've got Lebo on the line with us. Lebo, a very good morning to you. And we see the preparations are being put to their final touches right now at the memorial service. It's a somber day indeed for all broadcast fans as well as all football fans.
Somber day indeed, Kendall. You know, it is, hearing from the people around the streets of Mafikeng, quite unbelievable that the voice that they had come to know as, you know, part of the furniture, as they described him, is no more, and that they will no longer hear about him. Quite a lot of disappointment and heartbreak when CC, as he was known, passed away, when followers said because he was trending on Twitter, people thought that he was finally back on radio and that he had come back to good health, only to find that he had left this world. So today we're expecting quite a number of people, hundreds of people even here at the SABC in the Northwest Province, to come and remember Tsebman Matausen, as he was affectionately known.
Lebo, thank you very much. We'll definitely be coming back to you in a little bit to chat to you later to get more in-depth from you right now. That's Oleboheng Khosilintswe out there in Mahikeng getting ready to bring us the broadcast as we promised it to you this morning.
But right now, let's take a look at your news headlines. Another top Gauteng health official wants to dodge a subpoena ordering him to appear before the Life Isidimeni arbitration hearing. Kenya police have reportedly fired tear gas to control crowds trying to force their way into the stadium where the presidential inauguration will take place today. We'll go there live a little bit later. There you see some of the dignitaries arriving there on the red carpet at the inauguration in Kenya. And the UN Security Council convenes to discuss shocking video footage showing African migrants in Libya being sold as slaves. Now we'll take an in-depth look at that story on Thursday. Those are your headlines. But before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendo Makamate what's happening on the sports front.
Elvis, before I jump into that, just the stories that have been coming out of Libya make my blood boil. It's 2017. And good Africans being treated as slaves, being sold into slavery to pay for their passage to greener pastures. It makes my blood boil. I'll be looking forward to that show that Elvis will be hosting on Thursday. Good morning to you. This is what we have for you in the sports today.
Happy. Pelo.
The memorial service for SABC broadcast legend Manya, Pelo, who passed away last Wednesday, is being held today at the SABC Northwest Freedom Square Hall in Mahikeng.
Our Barcelona, our AC Milan, our Manchester United,
we do things because we want to make change, and that is what I'm doing. And if the reward comes, I'll not be shy to grab it.
After more than a year without a permanent coach, Manya is set to wait for even longer. The decision is expected to only be taken in the new year. And the Springboks, who on their end-of-the-year tour, welcome back hooker Malcolm Marx and flanker Siya Kolisi, who returned to training yesterday. All this and more we've got for you later on. Should we do the sports bulletin? Be sure to stick around. We'll also be chatting to Oleboheng Khosilintswe as she brings us the latest of what is going on out in Mahikeng as we remember the great legend Tsebo Manyape. So be sure to stay with us. In the meantime, Elvis has got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. Top story this hour. The High Court in Johannesburg will today hear an application by the suspended head of Gauteng's Health Department, Dr. Barney Selabano, in which he's seeking to have a subpoena ordering him to appear before the Life Isidimeni hearings set aside. Now, Selabano has been subpoenaed to appear at the hearings taking place here in Johannesburg on Monday. Meanwhile, the suspended Gauteng Mental Health Director, Dr. Makgabo Manamela, has concluded her evidence at the hearings.
Have accused Manamela of forcing them to take patients despite not being able to care for them. This she still denies.
You forced 3 patients on Mrs. Diane Noyile. Let's start off there.
I didn't force the 3 patients.
You didn't force the three
No,
patients.
we didn't force. We just asked that, can you explain
I want you to know
the structure
that
of the
perjury
ward?
is a criminal offence. I want you to know that.
I know that.
And I want you to know that everything you testify here can be used against you.
143 patients died, some from dehydration and starvation.
Do you think anybody should be charged criminally for what has happened in these deaths?
Justice, this project was managed by a lot of team members, so I may not be able to make that decision.
But Manamela's apology did little to appease the grieved families.
I regret that their loved one passed, and I'm saddened, and I feel that I'm so sorry for their loss. That's what I can say.
Manamela is still due to face an internal disciplinary hearing on the 7th of December for her role in the transfers. Other implicated senior officials will also be called to testify. SABC News in Parktown, Johannesburg.
Kenyan police have reportedly fired tear gas to try and control a crowd of thousands of people trying to force their way into a stadium to attend the inauguration of President Uhuru Kenyatta. Meanwhile, in a separate part of the capital city where the opposition leader Raila Odinga had planned to hold a rival meeting, police have sealed off the area and lobbed tear gas at the opposition supporters trying to gather there. Kenya's Uhuru Kenyatta is due to be sworn in for a second term today in inauguration that has been delayed by 2 disputed polls. 4 months of political upheaval has left the country deeply divided, and the opposition leader Raila Odinga has refused to recognize Kenyatta's election victory. Now there you can see some live pictures coming from Nairobi in Kenya, where President Uhuru Kenyatta will be inaugurated today. We understand that close to 20 heads of state are expected at this particular event. International Relations Minister Martin Okwane-Mashibani will represent President Jacob Zuma there, and as you can see, there's a lot of people in that particular stadium, and they're filling it up today for the inauguration process there with President Kenyatta.
Putting the final touches ahead of Kenyatta's inauguration. Just over 60,000 guests will be at Kasarani Sports Stadium in Nairobi when Kenya's 4th president takes the oath of office. Kenyatta will be sworn in after 2 court battles and 2 presidential elections. While Kenyans are relieved that the swearing-in marks the end of a long political period, the political standoff in the country is however expected to drag on. The opposition has termed Kenyatta's victory as illegitimate. Indeed, Kenyatta has extended an olive branch to his main opponents in a bid to put behind the bruising political battle.
I extend a hand of friendship, I extend a hand of cooperation, I extend a hand of partnership, knowing fully well that this country needs all of us pulling together in order for us to succeed. And Kenyans want us to succeed.
Kenyatta will be sworn in together with his deputy William Ruto. Ruto is eyeing to succeed his boss when the country heads to the polls again in 2022. Sarah Kimani, SABC News, Kenya.
The United Nations Security Council convened in New York today after news reports and video footage emerged last week showing African migrants in Libya being sold as slaves. Permanent member France, which has taken the lead on the issue, says the meeting is aimed at creating a broader awareness on modern-day slavery. It is seeking a unified position from council members against such acts. Last week, the United Nations Secretary General expressed his horror at the reports and called on authorities to investigate the matter without delay and bring the perpetrators to justice.
Libya's UN-backed government now says it's investigating the allegations first reported by CNN that hundreds of African migrants or refugees traveling through the country, most likely trying to reach Europe, had been bought and sold in slave markets. The UN Special Political Mission in Libya has indicated that it too is pursuing the matter with Libyan authorities, while the Council will be briefed Tuesday by the High Commissioner for Refugees, among others. France says it wants to break the model of human traffickers.
We are working on every conceivable measure, that was my second point, to fight against this scourge, so we don't exclude anything. We'll hear also the HCR, UNHCR, Filippo Grandi, and other briefers. So again, to answer Philippe's question, this is a very important meeting, and we wanted this meeting to be held, but also we wanted to have some results and to open some new perspectives in the fight against human trafficking in Libya in particular. Yes.
Italy, which holds the Council presidency, has been among the main receiving countries of the more than 150,000 migrants attempting to reach Europe by sea each year.
There was a telephone call between our foreign minister, Alfano, and Le Drian yesterday, Saturday rather, and they together, of course, agreed to hold this meeting. It's, of course, focused a lot on the recent news on the, slaves in Libya, so it's going to be a very important issue to discuss.
And we need to make sure that we stamp out modern slavery in all its forms, including human trafficking, including in Libya.
Reports suggest that human beings were being sold in slave markets for as little as $400 each.
For these appalling acts, and call upon all competent authorities to investigate these activities without delay and to bring the perpetrators to justice. And I've asked the relevant United Nations actors to actively pursue this matter. Slavery has no place in our world, and these actions are among the most egregious abuses of human rights and may amount to crimes against humanity.
The United Nations has urged all countries to adopt and apply the UN Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime while addressing migration flows in a comprehensive and humane manner. Sherwin Briceby's SABC News, New York.
Now, experts have warned that the recent decrease in the number of migrants crossing the Mediterranean to seek refuge in Europe is only a short-term occurrence. Now, this despite efforts to decrease the number of those crossing over. They warn that the numbers, especially of modern-day slaves and refugees, are likely to spike in the near future. This follows the emergence of video footage showing African migrants allegedly being sold into slavery.
The video footage, which has thrust the modern-day slave trade and the refugee crisis in North Africa back into the spotlight. Here the video shows scores of African migrants allegedly about to be sold into slavery in Europe. Many of these people have unwittingly approached and paid smuggling syndicates to help them escape the conflict and poverty plaguing their region. Experts say the political and security instability, especially in Libya, makes that country a preferred destination for human traffickers.
The challenge with the Libyan government at the moment is that while there is at least a semblance of a central authority, the reality is a lot of areas are ungoverned and a lot of areas are actually governed by the militia.
Analysts add that it's hard to pinpoint the exact period when the smugglers began operating, but they affirm that the North African human trafficking crisis should be regarded as a modern-day slave trade.
From the work that we've been doing, it's been going on for a while, but to be able to exactly determine sort of start date of this current slave trade is a bit difficult. That being said, in Libya, there has been, even dating as far back as when Muammar Gaddafi was still in office, reports indicating that people were being sold into slavery. The issue now is obviously the numbers of people and the manner in which it is being done.
Meanwhile, officials from the European and African unions are scheduled to meet in the Ivory Coast's capital, Abidjan, this week. Human rights groups and observers are calling on delegates to prioritize discussions around human trafficking and slavery at the summit. While the European Union has invested millions into several anti-smuggling initiatives, including partnering with the Libyan Coast Guard to police its coastline, analysts say more transparency and accountability around the management of those funds is urgently required. Tumalo Mohlaudi, SABC News, Johannesburg.
We'll do in-depth analysis of that story and a background to the slave trade in Libya and other countries, of course. That's on Thursday. You don't want to miss it. But in other news now from the rest of the continent, Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa has dissolved his cabinet as he prepares to appoint new ministers. A statement from the presidency says 2 acting ministers, Patrick Chanamase for finance as well as Simbarashe Mbebegwegwe for the foreign affairs, have been appointed to ensure that the running of the country remains uninterrupted. Mnangagwa was sworn in last week following the resignation of Robert Gabriel Mugabe. The statement did not indicate when he will announce his new cabinet. And on that note, let's go over to Kendall to find out what's happening with the memorial service or the funeral service that's happening today with Pelo Clement.
Yeah, thank you very much, Elvis. It is quite a somber day for all round. We touched base a little earlier with Olebogen Khosilinze in Mahikeng. And, you know, back home, the veteran broadcaster, Cebo Matauzen Manya Pelo, is being remembered today. And we asked you a question today. We want to find out from you, what are your messages of support for Mr. Manya Pelo's family and his friends as we remember this great legend? One or two tweets which we'll be sharing with you at a little later. Just keep them coming. We've got Olebogen Khosilinze standing by in Mahikeng to chat to us about what's going on and what the mood is like ever since Cebo Manya Pelo passed away. He is a broadcasting legend and is known throughout the country for being a man who spoke with such beautiful words about the beautiful game itself. Lebo?
To call him legendary, Kendall, would be something of an understatement. I mean, I've been listening to the messages of support that are coming from the viewers and the public at home, and many, you know, revere him for the love of the soccer game, the love for his sports, and his love for broadcasting. I mean, Itumeleng Khune said the other day that he got the name Mzansi's #1, Mzansi's finest from Cebo Manya Pelo. Festival Matlala also got the name Festival from Cebo Manya Pelo, saying that when Matlala came onto the pitch, there would be a festival. But from one festival to another, here I'm standing by with the provincial general manager, who is also a legendary soccer commentator and broadcaster right here on SABC. I'm talking about Den Mongale. He's now the leader of the SABC in the Northwest Province. He had a long journey with Cebo Manya Pelo ever since they started broadcasting in the 1980s. Ramongale, good morning. Indeed, a sober morning, a somber day rather, as we remember the legendary Cebo Manya Pelo.
Indeed, the broadcasting industry has suffered a great setback. We have lost a man who has done a remarkable job in different sporting commentary, CC as we used to call him.
And just briefly, who was Cebo Manya Pelo? Because, I mean, you knew each other when you were still teenagers, right up until here. You were competitors in the broadcasting. If it wasn't Den Mongale, it was Cebo Manya Pelo on the radio. Who is this person that we're talking about?
I met CC in 1984. I started to work for the SABC in 1982 as one of the sports commentators. And he was working for Bupudatswana Broadcasting Corporation. At that time, the competition in sports commentary was very high, and we were warned about this young man who has joined the broadcasting industry, who is CC, because he was doing exceptionally well. We were competing for listeners by then. At that time, because there were not so many competitors, we could drive a listenership of well over 4.5 million for Radio Setswana, which was called Radio Setswana before, and later it was called Setswana Stereo. But CC then worked for Bob Broadcasting Bupudatswana, and then he worked for Radio Mabatu. And then he joined the SABC when Bupudatswana Broadcasting Corporation was incorporated into the SABC in 1984.
And what is the legacy, according to you, that Cebo leaves? I mean, for me, it would be proficiency in Setswana. I can say that he's one of those broadcasters that made Setswana fashionable. For you, having worked for such a long time with him, what do you think it is that he leaves on this earth?
Of course, language proficiency is one of the things that actually was recommended for. He was commended for actually by Pensalt also. I think he scooped an award. But one thing that I used to respect him for, it was a well-researched commentary. He would know his player on and off the field, which is something actually that we miss from most of the commentators. Not only did he know them on and off the field, but also he related with them socially. That's why most of the players actually, if you ask them about Sisi, they will give you a bit of history about him. Soccer officials also, he related quite very well with them, and he would tell you about the background of that family. Who is Bobby Motaung? Where does he come from? How did it came that Bobby should be a prominent figure in football? I'm just citing an example. And before the transfers of players happen in respective teams, we will then hear from CC that so-and-so would be joined, this will join this team at a particular time. And something that we miss, and sometimes we disagree, we could not believe when he said these things. He was a very, very humble, well-informed commentator, and perhaps maybe one of the most important things that I did not mention, when he was sick, but not very sick, we did meet at the side reception. We discussed a very important aspect about our legacy. We intended to produce a CD, cut off the snippets from all the best commentators, and then we intended to sell that CD as part of our legacy. Unfortunately, we could not fulfill our dream. Here now we have lost Kebo, but then how can we take this thinking and thoughts forward is a challenge for us.
And work aside, he was quite a funny man. What are some of the phrases that you remember him most by?
Well, of course, a very jolly person sometimes, and what I like about him, Kebo, he did not only know South Africa or African sporting code, he was also conversant about different sporting code internationally. And wherever he is, he was a jolly person. I've never seen Kebo being angry. I remember at some point he was removed off air for the morning shift, but he takes things the way they present themselves to him. He never became angry for anybody, but the people that we service, that is our listeners, they were very much concerned about that, and we are inundated with calls from our target group. They wanted him back, you know, and by that time he said, I will pursue something that I love and that I believe nobody can take it from me, and that was different sporting coach that he excelled in commentary.
Thank you very much. Well, there you have it, Kendall. That was Dan Mongale, Kebo's longtime friend and colleague, who also became his manager later on in life, just sharing with us some moments, some of his memories.
We seem to be losing our connection to...
It will start at around 11
Right, there you have
o'clock.
it. That's Olebogeng Khosilinze with Dan Mongala, another broadcast legend, having a chat there about his colleague as well as friend, CC Cebo Manya Pelo there. And I do hope that CD does get put out. I want to hear those snippets of all the best of the best from the broadcast world. Here's some tweets of support to the family and friends. Mahafa Noel says, condolences to the family and friends. We will miss him. May his soul rest well, says Mahafa. And Klilomani says, CC, the voice of soccer, you gave us the taste of joy while watching soccer. Even in the boring games, Itula sees Mbuyan. Now there you have it. You know, a lot of people have got messages of we'll miss this voice. Lechasa, for example, says, let his soul rest in perfect peace. I never liked watching soccer before, but this man changed my mind. I so wish his family can accept what had happened, even though it is not simple. There you have it. Death is never easy. We never get used to it. And we do hope that as his memorial service is being held from about 10 o'clock this morning in Mahikeng, you will keep his family and friends in mind. And that's it for now. We'll be back with more sport later on. Back now to Elvis for the rest of the news.
Thank you, Kendall. And of course, our theme today, the Department of Water and Sanitation says it will do its best to ensure that consumers are not affected by the water cuts that will be imposed on municipalities that are not paying for the bulk water supply to them. Briefing the media in Johannesburg yesterday, Minister Nomvula Mokonyane said that municipalities owe the department and water boards a total of 107 billion rand and that this impacted on the department's ability to provide infrastructure and prevent pollution. The department has since published a list of all the municipalities that face being cut off from their water supplies if they do not pay the outstanding debt amounting to over 10.7 billion rand on Friday, the 8th of December. Now that is the deadline. Joining us now from our Pretoria studios is the Department of Water and Sanitation spokesperson, Sputnik Ratau. Very good morning to you, sir, and welcome.
Good morning, and thank you for having us.
Now, yesterday the minister indicated that the department is owed 10.7 billion rand. Is it the municipalities or the water boards that are failing to pay, or is it the residents that are failing to pay for these services?
Well, that is something that we need to get to the bottom of, understanding that you know, different municipalities would have different reasons to get to where we are. But obviously our interest is that we need to recoup this money. Municipalities are affected sometimes by their own incapacity and as such disability to be able to spend the money that they get from the fiscus accordingly, but also that they may not be able to have sufficient revenue base to be able to do some of the things. But we must also remember that they do get the grants that they get from the fiscus through the National Treasury as well as COGTA, which, by the way, there is a legal responsibility and obligation that part of that money has got to pay for bulk services. So at other times you will find that the money that comes into their coffers gets redirected to other functions rather than what it was intended to do. So for us, it has been quite a battle over a period of time. There have been different processes that we have engaged in, and that is why we are saying we need to come to a point where we've got to get the municipalities to actually come to the party and do what they have to do.
Now, seeing that you haven't got the answers yet, we are conducting a poll here this morning, Mr. Ratau. We want to find out from our viewers whether or not it is the municipalities or perhaps the water boards or the consumers that's responsible. Let me give you an indication, if you can see on our screen there. 267 votes are in, and 64% are saying that it is the municipalities that should be held responsible for the pending water cuts. 19% says the water boards, and only 17% says it is the residents. So there's a sort of slight indication as to where the problem lies with municipalities, our viewers are suggesting. But the minister had indicated that you have issued now notices to 29 local and district municipalities to start paying their outstanding water bills by early next month. Are we likely to see more municipalities being added to this list?
Well, for us, it is about what is it that needs to happen. And I think it has been stated very clear that what we are looking at is that we need to come to an agreement between now and the 8th of December, where the municipalities are able to then come and say, this is what we are going to pay in terms of the current accounts, that is the accounts that are within the 30 to 60 days that is owed. And therefore negotiations can then be held about the historical debt. One of the things that we are saying is that we understand that there is historical debt, but obviously what we need to do is to agree on a process of getting that paid through. Because if we do not have this money coming in, the department is going to be in a situation where it will not be able to perform some of the basic things that it has got to perform. And ultimately it will mean that the country will be in a situation where we are not able to deliver the bulk services that we are constitutionally obliged to deliver. And that is something that we cannot afford to do.
What do you think, Mr. Ratau, led to the situation as it is, and what are the greatest challenges faced currently by the municipalities?
Well, it's a combination of factors like I indicated earlier. Some of the municipalities may not have the capacity to actually spend the money correctly. In other instances, the money gets redirected to other functions other than what it is intended for. But also there is the issue that there is also the issue of not collecting from their own clients, which would be obviously your communities, your industries, and whoever else is supposed to be paying to the municipalities. And that there is the issue of the billing systems that are failing in most of the municipalities. If we are to look at the situation around Mfuleni as a perfect example where the MEC of Human Settlements in Gauteng had to come in and say that in order for us to continue to provide the services to the council, there will need to be some capacity that must be redirected from his own department to go and see what it is that actually is hampering the performance of Mfuleni, so that the Mfuleni can come to the party. Because true to word, it is a fact that there is money being owed to Rand Water by Mfuleni. But when you look at as well the size of the debt across the municipalities, you can see that it is debt that has been accumulating over time. So it implies that over time there has just been, at some point, it's possible that there could have been also a dereliction of duties.
Now, the South African Water Caucus yesterday launched a report which exposes the dysfunction and institutional paralysis in the Department of Water and Sanitation. They say there's extremely high staff turnover, high vacancy rates, around 900 vacant posts, recent suspension of top management, including 4 DDGs in the WS, that has 9 accounting officers in the past 8 years. Your reaction rather to these revelations, and are they true?
Well, I think some of the issues that are being raised are obviously internal issues that cannot also be fobbed aside. But obviously what it implies is that whether or not there are suspensions, whether or not there is that movement of human capacity within the department would still have to continue to do what it has to do. And part of what has got to happen is to collect these outstanding debts, because if you can go back about a year into our financials and the report of the Auditor General, where he has said that for the water trading entity to continue as a viable entity, there needs to be the collection of the funding that must come into that entity. And therefore, we cannot then say, because there are issues relating to performances of staff within the department, we then stand back about the fact that there is money being owed, not just to the department, but to water boards as well. And obviously, this has got an implication as well on how the water boards can be able to continue to do their functions, as well as whether they are being impaired in terms of how they can be able to go out and find money to be able to do the things that they are able to do because of the status of their financials, in terms of what the prospective investors might be needing to look at.
Now, Treasury proposed that the department look at the Auditor General's 2016 recommendations, that the department devise and implement policies to guide operations within some of their grant as well as their municipal structures. Have those recommendations been implemented?
The issue of the report of the Auditor General is something that obviously we take very seriously, and that is why there is continuous engagement with the Office of the Auditor General. There are issues that we have taken directly to say these are things that we need to obviously deal with because they are recommendations that we agree with. But there are also other situations where we have said we need to relook at them together with the Office of the Auditor General, because we believe that there is rationale behind what the Auditor General might have found wanting, and yet we understand that we had to go through certain processes in order to be sure that we continue to function as a government entity that must deliver on its mandate. But obviously that's an ongoing engagement, but we do appreciate the work that the Auditor General does, although if we have issues that we need to raise with the Office of the Auditor General, we will continue to raise these.
Now, we had a number of feedback from the question that we posed this morning, and some people in some of these municipalities where the water will be cut off are suggesting that they are paying their debt. So why should they be cut off because the municipality didn't pay their debts? What are you going to do about that? And as a department, what measures have you put in place to ensure that the taps don't run dry?
Always, when you look at how the department has been performing over time, and especially in terms of as well intervening where municipalities have been failing in some instances to perform the duties that they are constitutionally bound to do. And that's some of the problems that we have landed ourselves in, because we have gotten into situations, especially over the last couple of years when the drought has hit us very much, where we have gone into municipalities, intervened in certain instances, and got our fingers bent because we have exceeded what our mandate allowed us to do. And therefore, what we are saying now is we need to attend to our clients, and our clients are the municipalities. Whereas the municipalities have got their own clients, which would be your communities as well as industry and whoever else is operating within them, their jurisdiction. And therefore, based on that, we must deal with what we have to deal with. And obviously, our interest is that let us engage with the municipalities. Obviously now what has happened is that we are saying we are going to continue engaging, but also include National Treasury, include COPTA, and hopefully SALGA as the body that is overall responsible for the municipalities will also come to the party so that we can have a comprehensive understanding of where things are. But we must also make the point that where we have engaged successfully, and a particular municipality like OR Tambo has actually kept to the letter of the word that we have agreed upon, where last year we came to a particular arrangement in terms of payments of their debt. They have kept to that. Where we still have to have discussions around whether we agree with the debt that they are facing or not, we are continuing with that. But that did not mean that they actually had to give up on their basic responsibilities.
Mr. Ratau, thank you so much for your time. That was the Department of Water and Sanitation spokesperson, Sputnik Ratau, from our Pretoria studios. Let's now take a look at our poll, and that's what we're asking you today. It's a very important story. Who do you think should be held responsible for the pending water cuts? 267 votes in. You have 22 hours left to vote, so you can still vote. 64% of you are suggesting that it is the municipalities that should be held responsible. 19% says the water boards, and 17% says the residents. So, some of you residents, are you really paying your water? Yes? And then, of course, not paying it over to the municipality. But now let's take a look at what's happening on social media. And we start off with hashtag water cuts. It's coming. The Water and Sanitation Department says it will engage the National Treasury and the Cooperative Governance Department over escalating water municipal debt. The department has warned that it will cut water supply to 30 municipalities, owing it more than 10.7 billion rand on the 8th of December. That's the cut-off date. So if you haven't paid your water, you will be without water for Christmas. How would you like that? Moving on, suspended Gauteng Mental Health Director Dr. Makgoba Manamela has apologized to the affected families as she concluded her testimony at the Life Isidimeni hearings here in Parktown, Johannesburg yesterday. After 4 days on the witness stand, Manamela admitted that the relocations did not go according to plan, but says they tried their best to contain the situation. Hashtag Manamela. And then the big day in Kenya today, the Kenya inauguration, there's a hashtag there. Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta is said to be sworn in for his second and final term in the capital Nairobi. Today, Kenyatta will take the oath of office following 2 presidential elections and 2 election petitions. The Supreme Court cleared the way for his inauguration after dismissing petitions that were filed to challenge Kenyatta's victory. Close to 20 heads of state are expected at the event, and as you can see, they're filling up that stadium as we speak. Those are live pictures coming through to you from the stadium there. We'll also show you some live pictures a little bit later from Kenya in relation to what's happening outside. There was already some violence outside where the police tear gas some of the people wanting to storm the area. Moving on now to some good news. Meghan Markle, Britain's Prince Harry and his American fiancée, Meghan Markle, have spoken about their excitement over their engagement, which they announced yesterday. Prince Harry says they fell in love so quickly that it seemed proof that the stars are aligned. Markle says that she will give up acting to focus on causes that are important to her. She's already involved with humanitarian work. And of course, she's in that series called Suits. Focus back now to a serious problem. The South African Water Caucus yesterday launched a report which exposes the dysfunction and institutional paralysis in the Department of Water and Sanitation. That report is almost based on publicly accessible information, including parliamentary questions and answers, portfolio committee meeting reports, information from access to information requests, as well as media articles. The report presents it in a single document which paints a particularly bleak picture for South Africa's water institutions and hence water security. Meanwhile, the Water and Sanitation Ministry yesterday addressed the media on water cuts, saying that the department is currently owed 10.7 billion rand, 6.8% of which is owed to the various water boards. Joining us now is Marietta Liffering, the CEO of Federation for Sustainable Environment. A very good morning to you and welcome, ma'am.
Good morning.
First and foremost, take us through the report and tell us what the report is all about that was released yesterday.
The report was compiled by 20 organizations consisting of non-profit organizations as well as civil society organizations, community organizations and trade unions. It was a report based not on hearsay evidence. There was prima facie evidence, documentary evidence, as you have intimated in your introduction. It's based on Parliamentary Portfolio Committee meeting hearings as well as parliamentary questions and answers, newspaper reports, and of course also information obtained in terms of the provisions of the Promotion of Access to Information Act. First of all, the human resource, which you also alluded to. There is, of course, challenges with regards to human resources with 900 vacant posts. The fact that there had been 9 financial officers in 8 years, the fact that many DGs and DDGs had been suspended and there had been no reasons given for the suspensions. Then coming back to the financial management, which I think is pertinent, is the fact that there was recorded an overspending of 1.5 billion by the Department of Water and Sanitation. 1.9 billion rand is owed to the Reserve Bank. As a result of the overspending and also the money owed to the Reserve Bank, there will be no budget allocations during 2017 or 2018 for drought relief. I think that would be of interest to the Western Cape. Besides that, I also want to refer to the auditor's report, a qualified audit, because of fruitless, wasteful expenditure and irregular expenditure, but perhaps of great concern is the fact that we have the VAR reconciliation strategies. The VAR reconciliation strategies was only compiled in 2014, so it is relatively outdated. Yes. In terms of the reconciliation strategies, and I just here want to interpose, the VAR River supplies water to 60% of the economy and 45% of the population, and it also augments other river systems. It's an extremely important river system. But in order to address the water supply and water demand, to reconcile water supply and water demand, because the Vaal has a growing water deficit. The Lesotho Highlands Phase 2, that is the Polihali Dam, had to come online, had to be constructed by 2020. Because of alleged corruption, and that has also increased the expenditure, it is now delayed until 2025.
Is that corruption within the department or corruption elsewhere?
That was what was alleged in the newspaper reports based on documentary evidence. Besides that, acid mine drainage, which is a very costly socio-economic and environmental impact, it has to be desalinated, that is the long-term treatment of acid mine drainage, by 2014-2015 in order to address this growing deficit in the Vaal River system. Now it is postponed to 2020-2021. So we can see that it is not just a matter of water quality, it's a matter also of managing the water quantity. There has been no water quality reports published. There had been no blue and green drop reports. Blue drop is your drinking water, green drop is your wastewater. No reports published since 2013. So the public is unaware of the quality of their water. And then I also just want to focus on enforcement, because we were discussing the municipalities' default of 10 billion rand or more than 10 billion rand. The National Water Act is very clear. The water belongs to the nation. It belongs to the people of South Africa. But the ultimate responsibility is with the minister. Our Honourable Minister of Water and Sanitation. She has that responsibility to protect and manage the water. And part of the National Water Act, Section 19, makes provision for the polluter pays principle. In fact, it states there that there can be enforcement against persons, and it's a wide pool of persons that are being held responsible and liable, such as managers, operators, directors of companies collectively and individually. They can be held responsible if they are in non-compliance with water use licenses or with the National Water Act. We have found that there are only 35 inspectors, enforcement inspectors in the entire Department of Water and Sanitation in South Africa.
So it's a crisis within human resource, it's a crisis within finances, but what do you think? Does government and the department have the political will to resolve these pending crises that we're going to face?
If they comply with our constitution, which is the axiom of our law, the right to an environment that is not harmful to health and well-being, the right to water that is sufficient quality and quantity, and they have the tools. We have both the National Water Act, we also have the National Environmental Management Act. These two are integrated. And I also just want to mention that with regards to the other tools, there is, for example, the Catchment Management Agency in terms of Chapter 7 of the National Water Act. Catchment Management Agencies was initially supposed to be 19. It was reduced to 9, and now the Minister is of the intention to reduce it to 1, which will contradict the objective, that is, in order to have communities having an influence in decision making.
Ms. Liefering, just very briefly, we're running out of time. Have you presented this to government already or to the department?
Yes, yesterday it was put on the public news media to the public. That is, I think, why I was requested for the interview, but it was also submitted to the Minister, our Honourable Minister of Water and Sanitation, and it will be submitted to the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Water and Sanitation.
Thank you so much. I wish I had more time with you to discuss this, but thank you so much. It was Mariette Liefering, the CEO of the Federation for Sustainable Environment, joining us here in studio. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll discuss this some more. What's happening in the Western Cape? There's a drought there, so we want to find out what's going on.
Marco!
Pelo! Pelo! Pelo!
2 weeks earlier. Gentlemen, welcome to our pub. Castle. Share a castle, make some new friends.
Nagedi Matthews Posa is an attorney, politician and anti-apartheid activist. He was the top MK leader operating out of Mozambique in the 80s. One of the first 4 members of the ANC to enter South Africa from exile in 1990 in order to start the process of negotiation with the National Party government. Posa was head of the ANC's legal department. He often tussled with the apartheid lawmakers over the investigation into the death of Chris Hani. During his time in office, he pioneered planning interactions between the private sector and government. He also spearheaded Nelson Mandela's reconciliation initiatives between the government and the Afrikaans-speaking community. former Premier of Mpumalanga and former member of the National Executive Committee of the ANC. Posa published a volume of poetry called Deur die Oog van 'n Held in 1996. Posa received an Afrikaans award from ATKV.
The ANC is a democratic organization. These nominations indicate that character of the ANC. I said on one of your mediums that the more the merrier, because if there's no competition for those positions, then we're imposing leadership on the branch of the ANC. It's very, very important that the branch of the ANC must express their views in line with the ANC being a democratic organization.
Together we rise.
Staying with our theme on water today. Now, the Western Cape is among the hardest hit provinces by the drought. Now, this has led to water restrictions in some parts of the province. Now, with the festive season around the corner and upon us, and of course an influx of tourists expected in the Western Cape, will this lead to the province running out of water? Are there plans to avert a crisis during the festive seasons? And did the rain from last week make any difference in the dam levels? Now, to answer all these questions, James Brent-Stein is a spokesperson for the MEC for Local Government and Environmental Affairs and Development Planning in the Western Cape. He's joining us from our Sea Point studios. A very good morning to you, sir, and welcome.
Thanks for having me. Morning, Alice.
James, first and foremostly, what is the situation like in the Western Cape as we speak?
Very serious. Some areas worse off than others. We're thinking of Beaufort West in particular at this stage, and up in the West Coast district, Matsikama has been very hard hit at the moment as well. Agriculture sector is in serious trouble. We're talking of the drought, of course. 3 years of below average rainfall have led to the situation where we are at the moment. We see that the average dam levels in the Western Cape currently at 34%. So that means there's on average about 24% of usable surface water left in the province. We still have a lot of groundwater, which is carrying us through the worst of it in many of the areas.
Mm-hmm. Now, did last week's rain make any difference to the crisis?
Sadly, it doesn't seem to be the case, Elvis. We did get some good rain, unseasonally good rain, which shows how demarcated the climate is, because we're getting rain in November and snow even in some parts of the Karoo in November. It's completely unheard of. So at this stage, the dam levels don't show to have increased much. It might have been a slight stabilization following last week's rain. But we've said for some time that we probably need a few weeks at least of good rain to recover our dam levels.
What do you pin this down to, climate change or water management?
Well, climate change is most certainly an aspect in our view. We've been seeing the trends and the guidelines. Population growth is another aspect. The demand on water from the economy is another aspect. So there's all sorts of factors that have to be taken into account. But most certainly, a big factor for us in the Western Cape has been the 3 years of below average rainfall that we've seen, and that's just meant that our dams have been in decline for about 3 years.
Now, you're expecting an influx of tourists to the Western Cape over the festive season. Are you prepared for them?
We prepare as well we can, and we always welcome them. We always all look forward to the festive season together. We are concerned, of course, and we want to do a call on tourists, visitors, travelers through the Western Cape in the coming months to please consider the state of the province when it comes to water. Please use water sparingly. Perhaps don't take a bath after you visit the ocean. Just take a short shower. Speak to the locals. They'll assist you. We certainly need your help. Every little drop will count. It will. And please remember, if you return home, you're going to leave behind a community that in January, February is going to need every bit of water that you will be saving over this festive season.
10.7 million rand is being owed to the Department of Water Affairs for bulk water services. Do you get any support at this point in time from national government?
Elvis, we all work together in a drought and a crisis, particularly like this. It's all hands on deck. We are meeting with our national government counterparts on a regular basis. We have been getting some support, yes. We look forward to further support. It's the only way we're going to get through this period. Just as another matter of interest, I was listening to your interview earlier. That list of defaulting municipalities, not one of them are in the Western Cape. We think that that the financial management in our towns is not one of the major concerns leading to the water crisis, if that provides any clarity with regards to the situation in the Western Cape.
Are there still water restrictions in some places in the Western Cape?
Absolutely. There are water restrictions, as to my knowledge, everywhere. Even though it's a level 1 in some areas, in many areas it's level 3 and upwards. In the city of Cape Town, it's at the highest restriction level, level 5. And the city of Cape Town is also considering further further plans to bring down water usage. Tackling a drought like this requires a two-pronged attack. You need to bring down the demand, and you need to add more water to the system, and that is what we're currently trying to do with measures like boreholes. We're upgrading existing plants and infrastructure, water reticulation plants, bulk water waste management systems, and the city and other areas are also looking at some desalination plants.
James Brent Stein, I thank you so much for your time and joining us in our Cape Town studios there.
You're welcome. Thank you.
There you have it, the MEC, spokesperson for the MEC for Local Government, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning in the Western Cape, James Brent Stein. Right now, we're taking it right to the top of the hour at 10 o'clock. $10 Central Africa time here on the Newsroom, Jumbo Africa. I'm Elvis Presland.
I'm Kendall Makamate. Good morning.
We will be with you until 12 o'clock today. Now, today we focus on water. It's a very important resource for you, me, and everybody else, Kendall.
No, absolutely. It's a basic human right, and we don't need the law to tell us that. We all need water.
That's why we're asking you on our poll today. We're putting it up so you can vote. Who should be held responsible for the pending water cuts? Municipalities, water boards, or residents?
Got 295 votes that have come in so far, and the overwhelming majority, Elvis, the 64% say municipalities should be held to account for the pending water cuts.
Well, 20% say the water boards, but the water boards are not really the problem. The municipalities need to pay the water boards in order for the water boards to pay the DWS. 16% says the residents. There is some responsibility not being held here by some of the residents, because the Western Cape is not a problem, but anywhere else there is a problem.
Well, I don't know if the Western Cape is not a problem. I think it's a South African thing these days. King Yase Emalahleni says the department knows very well our municipalities are corrupt now. They want to cut off water to us, but I say watch. If you want to see damage to communities, keep on that track.
This one coming from Kuva says, Mfuleni municipality is doing nothing, but they got a spending spree with girlfriends. There you have it. There's the money being spent. Like one analyst once said, fast cars and fast girls will bring you nowhere, and that's where it is in Mfuleni. So suggests one of our viewers.
Public servants living like rock stars, isn't it?
There you go. But we also have a sporting question for you today, because we're focusing on...
But before we get to the sporting question, let's talk a little bit about Life Esidimeni, because that's what's been happening. We've been following it and keeping track of those arbitration hearings for the longest time. And we really have a question for you. And our question to you really is, you know, what do you make of what's being said that Dr. Bani Silebano refuses to appear in court?
So, Melvin says, who would want to appear at that arbitration? After Dr. Manamela's Sisanyama grilling, I would think twice too.
Melvin is so spot on. Mpos Kakampa says he must be charged criminally for murder of all 143 patients, which shows arrogance.
Now there you have it. These are some of your comments. You can keep them coming and we'll read them as we continue. But we're also asking a very sad question today, Kendall.
Yeah, we're asking you to give us your messages of support for Pelo Manyapelo's family and friends. You will remember that Mr. Manyapelo is a broadcast legend who passed away sadly on Wednesday last week.
Amatauzed. So, Malibongwe says, a good heart has stopped beating. A good soul ascended to heaven. I would like to offer his family my deepest and most sincere condolences, and may his soul of their son grandson, father, brother, uncle. Rest in peace. Thank you, Malibongwe.
Nazim Krotwem weighs in on this one as well and says, we've lost one of the great commentators in South Africa. May his soul rest in peace. Trebo, Sisi, Manya, Pelo. We heard just now with Ulebecheng speaking to Dan Mongala about what a great commentator he was, how well researched he was, how well respected he is by the entire footballing community, from players to administrators to all of us as fans.
Well, right now, let's take a look at your news headlines. It's like the President Kenyatta has arrived, and there you see the march coming through of the soldiers walking through in onto the pitch there, and I can't see the President as yet, but we do believe he's there somewhere in the background there with his car arriving, and we'll bring you some more of those pictures coming through from Kenya live at the stadium as we speak. It's a brilliant event there. Magical Kenya, you see some of the banners flying out there. It is packed to capacity. Earlier, we heard, of course, that there was violence outside the stadium. We hope that that has been quelled, but there's also another meeting happening, of course, with the opposition leader holding a meeting on the other side of town, and the roads were closed off, we understand. We're going to see if we can get our reporter to giving us some feedback as to what is currently transpiring there, and we'll bring you the latest from there, right here on your screen right now. Today is the big day, the inauguration of Uhuru Kenyatta for the second term.
Asanteni kwa heshima, naweza kuketi tafadhali. We may have our seats. Basi ni wakati wa kuweza kunyooshwa vyema katika misururu. Ukiweza kutazama waliingia wakiwa katika misururu mitatu, lakini hivi sasa wako katika misururu miwili, na hivi sasa wanaweza kunyoroshwa pale tayari kwa gwaride ya siku ya leo wakati wake parade RSM. Wanajipanga hivi sasa wakuu mbalimbali wa vikundi kuweza kusimama mbele ya vikundi vyao tayari kuweza kuingia rasmi kwenye gwaride hii. Mkuu wa kikundi cha kwanza, cha pili, cha tatu na cha nne.
As we see there, the guard of honor being taken there by the president. Of course, we do understand that he's there, but we haven't seen that picture yet, Kendall, as the guards are marching there towards the other side. It seems like onto the red carpet, onto the red carpet.
Yes,
maybe that.
Absolutely. You know, it's been heady days in African politics over the last few months. What with what went on in Zimbabwe most recently, as well as now we're watching what's happening out in Kenya. As Kenya, like you said, so correctly said, selects Kenyatta to come and have another term. It was mired in controversy at the last minute. Raila Odinga, his political opponent, pulling out of the rerun of the election at the last minute. And to get to that point, it needed to go to court, which basically court found that the very first election had not gone as planned and as should have planned. And so basically we're looking at democracy in Africa at work. The courts being used and the people's voice being heard, and Uhuru Kenyatta, the son of the soil, some would say, being re-elected as president.
Well, that controversy overturned, of course, by the Constitutional Court, and, of course, indicating that he will be president. And today is that inauguration process there. There is the soldiers, as you can see them, on the grounds there, making their marches. A very fast march. That haven't seen that one.
No, neither have I. Lots of pomp and ceremony, and I think we're being let in on some of the great traditions that make up this great continent of ours. Just the other day, we're watching what was going on in Zimbabwe with Mnangagwa being selected and put in place as the interim president of Zimbabwe. And right now, we're seeing Uhuru Kenyatta. He's the ceremony that's going to make sure that the world knows that he is the president of Kenya for another term. As you can see, a packed stadium, the soldiers all standing to attention in all full pomp and ceremony as we watch what happens across the continent. We are, of course, also waiting here in South Africa for the ANC's elective conference ahead of the big national elections later on. But this is what's transpiring out in Kenya as we speak.
All right, in Nairobi right now, as we speak, you can see the packed stadium there. We are probably waiting also for the national anthem to be played, and a lot of pomp and ceremony, as Kendall indicated, there happening. And we're also waiting for the president to deliver his inauguration speech. We'll take that live for you a little bit later, and we'll bring you some pictures coming from the outside of the stadium. As I indicated earlier, there was some violence. We haven't had an update as yet as to what is transpiring out there, if that has been quelled. Also, as you know, there was some controversy in the run-up to the inauguration and, of course, the elections as well. We know that a number of people, up to almost 20 people, were killed after the elections, the second runoff elections, and Kenyatta was declared the winner, where the opposition did not participate in that election. So there you have it. The inauguration process currently underway in Kenya. We'll bring you some more of those pictures a little bit later.
Ningependa kwa heshima niweze kutambua kuwepo kwako nasi His Excellency Pierre Buyoya, representative of the chairperson of the African Union. Tumkaribishe kwa makofi wananchi. Tuko naye pia His Excellency Rupia Banda, former president of the Republic of Zambia. Tumkaribishe kwa makofi. Ameungana nasi pia Mheshimiwa Yemi Osibajo, makamu wa rais wa Jamhuri ya Shirikisho ya Nigeria. Tumkaribishe. Tumkaribishe pia Mheshimiwa Thabo Mbeki, rais mstaafu wa Jamhuri ya Afrika Kusini. Karibuni, Your Excellencies.
Asante sana Bwana Peter Wanjoy kuweza kuwakaribisha wageni wetu mashuhuri. Basi mabibi na mabwana, karibuni katika sherehe hizi za kuapishwa kwa rais wetu mteule wa Jamhuri ya Kenya leo tarehe 28 mwezi wa 11 mwaka 2017. Basi mnavyoshuhudia wima uwanjani, gwaride ya heshima iliyoandaliwa na majeshi ya ulinzi ya Kenya, mavazi mekundu jeshi la nchi kavu, mavazi samawati.
Let me remind you of your headlines. Another top Gauteng health official wants to dodge a subpoena ordering him to appear before the Life Isidimeni arbitration hearings. You've seen it live, pictures coming to us live from Kenya there a little bit earlier, bring you the latest from there. We're going to go there live as soon as the President Uhuru Kenyatta arrives at the stadium and deliver his inauguration speech. And the UN Security Council convenes to discuss shocking video footage showing African migrants in Libya being sold as slaves. Those are your headlines, but here's Kendall with your sports news and your headlines there.
Elvis, thank you very much. Quite a lot happening in the world of politics as well as in sports. Good morning to you. This is what we've got for you in the sports today. The memorial service for SABC broadcast legend Manya Pelo passed away last Wednesday is being held today at the SABC Northwest Freedom Square Hall in Mahikeng.
Our Barcelona, our AC Milan, our Manchester United,
we do things because we want to make change, and that is what I'm doing. And if the reward comes, I'll not be shy to grab it.
After more than a year without a permanent coach, Banyana is set to wait for even longer, as the decision is expected to only be taken sometime in the new year. And the Springboks, who are on their end-of-year tour, welcome back hooker Malcolm Marx and flanker Siya Kolisi, who returned to training yesterday. We'll have this in more detail later on. For now, stay with Elvis as he's got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. The High Court in Johannesburg will today hear an application by the suspended head of Gauteng's Health Department, Dr. Bani Selabano, in which he's seeking to have a subpoena ordering him to appear before the Life Isidimeni hearing set aside. Selabano has been subpoenaed to appear at the hearings taking place here in Johannesburg today, on Monday rather. Meanwhile, the suspended Gauteng Mental Health Director, Dr. Makhobo Manamela, has concluded her evidence at the hearing.
Several witnesses have accused Manamela of forcing them to take patients despite not being able to care for them. This she still denies.
You forced 3 patients on Mrs. Diane Noyile. Let's start off there.
I didn't force the 3 patients.
You didn't force the 3
No,
patients.
we didn't force. We just asked that, can you explain
I want you to know
the structure
that
of the
perjury
ward?
is a criminal offense. I want you to know that.
I know that.
And I want you to know that everything you testify here can be used against you.
143 patients died, some from dehydration and starvation.
Do you think anybody should be charged criminally for what has happened in these deaths?
This project was managed by a lot of team members, so I may not be able to make that decision.
But Manamela's apology did little to appease the grieved families.
I regret that their loved one passed, and I'm saddened, and I feel that I'm so sorry for their loss. That's what I can say.
Manamela is still due to face an internal disciplinary hearing on the 7th of December for her role in the transfers. Other implicated senior officials will also be called to testify. SABC News in Parktown, Johannesburg.
There you go. Those are live pictures coming from Kenya, where you can see, I think that's the president arriving there. Of course, he's waving. In fact, there's a hand coming out of that vehicle that you see there. It seems that that is the president arriving at the stadium there, and the inauguration process to proceed shortly. Security guards jumping out of the vehicle. And of course, there we have the live visuals coming through. William Ruto is arriving there. That is the deputy president there, shaking hands with some of the dignitaries. As you know, there's 20 heads of state here today in Kenya, awaiting for the president to arrive, and they are all there, and even some senior ministers that are attending this ceremony.
Welcome, Your Excellencies. Karibuni sana. Asante.
Now, William Ruto, the man in your picture right now, is likely to succeed Kenyatta in 2022, as some suggest there. You also know that the president will today be inaugurated again for his second and, of course, final term in the capital, Nairobi. There you see some of the heads of states shaking hands there. And there's another vehicle arriving, and that could be now the president arriving secondly there, with that vehicle as the guards running next to it. And we're going to have a look at those pictures as they come and emanate live from Nairobi as we speak. And as I indicated earlier, Kenyatta will take the oath of office following 2 presidential elections and 2 election petitions. Now, the Supreme Court of Appeal cleared the way for his inauguration after dismissing 2 petitions that was filed to challenge Kenyatta's victory. And there you have also the president from Botswana, Ian Khama, arriving there as well. And as you can see, there's a lot of dignitaries there. 20 heads of state expected to be there today, and we will keep you abreast of what's happening. There's another dignitary coming through, and it seems like most of the dignitaries or the heads of states are arriving now, with the president probably last in tow. But as you can see, those are the pictures emanating from Kenya. Now, people are in a festive mood. They filled that stadium today, as you can see from the pictures that we receive currently, ahead of that inauguration of President Uhuru Kenyatta for a second term in office. Now, as you know, Raila Odinga has mocked Mr. Kenyatta's coronation, and he boycotted the rerun of the presidential poll last month, and says that Mr. Kenyatta was not elected legitimately. Well,
welcome, Your Excellency.
There's the president from Sudan arriving, also coming into the picture there. You can see him there. And in our studios now, we have Sophie Mukwena also in studio, joining us to give us an update. Is the political editor here at SABC, foreign editor here at SABC. Morning, Sophie. Well, it's a glorious day for Kenya. As we can see, there's some of the dignitaries arriving right now as we speak.
Yes, indeed. We saw the Deputy President, William Ruto, as you indicated, arriving. We heard earlier on former President of Malawi, of Zambia, Banda. We heard that former President of South Africa, Thabo Mbeki, is there. And now we see Edgar Lungu arriving, the President of Zambia. And yes, it's a glorious day in Kenya after, you know, a protracted political wrangling to finally ensure that perhaps the Kenyans start from scratch in rebuilding their country, particularly on the economic front.
Now, the Supreme Court, of course, cleared the way for this inauguration to take place today, dismissing those petitions that was filed to challenge Kenyatta's victory. But as we can see, today is that big day of the inauguration. We're also going to try and get our reporter, Sarah Kamani. I hope is she on the line as yet, that we can also speak to her to find out a little bit more. But as the pictures arrive and as the dignitaries arrive at the stadium there's another one arriving now.
Yes, indeed, many dignitaries. We saw earlier on that many African heads of states have confirmed that they will be attending this inauguration. We also heard that Benjamin Netanyahu, Israeli Prime Minister, is also going to attend. Many heads of states from Middle East also attending, and South Africa sending our international relations minister, Ngwana Maite Mashaban, because the president is currently in Ivory Coast attending the AU Africa Summit.
We also understand a little bit earlier, there is from Namibia coming through the Hagi Geinkop arriving. Of course, he's also in picture there. And as we indicated earlier, there's a number of high-profile individuals at this particular event today.
And Namibian president was elected the president of SWAPO this weekend. So, yeah, a lot of history.
History around that one as well.
On the continent, democracy at play.
Following up after Sam Nujoma, of course, leading Namibia for so many years.
Yes. Another dignitary arriving there. Many.
Arya Marai Desale, I think that is, yes. There's in your picture there coming through. And they're coming in thick and fast, and this is going to be one of those events. Well, there we go. We have Sarah Kamani, East Africa correspondent on the line. Sarah, a very good morning to you and welcome. All excitement there in Kenya this morning in Nairobi.
Yes, indeed, a beautiful day in Nairobi for the inauguration of President Uhuru Kenyatta, who begins his second and final term today. The stadium is full to capacity, over 60,000 people here cheering loudly every time a guest arrives, cheering every time the name of Uhuru Kenyatta is mentioned. Indeed, a beautiful day for those who went to the polls on the 26th of October to vote for Uhuru Kenyatta, and indeed a good day for the country after a protracted electoral period.
We see a number of dignitaries arriving. Paul Kagame just stepped out, the president from Rwanda also arriving. And what is the mood like? Have you spoken to some people to find out how they feel about today?
Yes, the mood is electric. People have been here since 3 in the morning. They have been dancing, singing, cheering. It's been a beautiful, beautiful day. You can see them there waving the Kenyan flag, some of them wearing the Jubilee Party colors, others choosing to wear their clothes in the form of the Kenyan flag. But what you hear here is the people who are relieved that the electoral period will finally come to an end and Uhuru Kenyatta can be sworn in and the country can try to put its house in order and maybe move together as one.
We heard some reports that earlier there's another meeting planned in the middle of the city where the roads were cut off. Let's see who's arriving there, Sophie. If we can just reflect on that, we understand that roads were cut off where Raila Odinga was gathering. Any reports on that? Any update on that?
Indeed, opposition supporters setting up barricades in the eastern part of Nairobi where Raila Odinga is expected to arrive for a parallel meeting, what is calling a prayer rally in memory of those who have been killed during protests for the elections. But that meeting has been outlawed. Police saying that the only meeting that they recognize and the only meeting that is legal is this meeting, the meeting to swear in President Uhuru Kenyatta here at the Kasarani Stadium in Nairobi.
Now, there's a lot of people there. Earlier also, we understand there was police having to disperse some of the crowd outside the stadium. Is that still the case there, and has that been brought under control?
No, that has been brought under control. The place is now quiet. But for 1 minute there, we thought we were back to the electoral period because the whole place was filled with tear gas, people running, because the stadium can only hold 60,000 people, and we had here more than 200,000 people. And when they were told that the stadium is full, they forced their way into the stadium, some of them trying to get right into the middle of the field. And so police had to really take control very fast because also it could have been a security lapse. Unfortunately, a lot of people have been injured during the stampede as police was forcing them back outside the stadium.
Now, it's now 10:27 our time here, Sarah. What time is the inauguration supposed to kick off, and what time do you think that the president will deliver his inauguration speech?
Well, President Kenyatta is expected here any time now because according to the Kenyan Constitution, the inauguration ceremony must take place between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Kenyan time. This is to avoid a case where a president is sworn in at night, like it happened during President Kibaki's second term in 2007. And so by 2 p.m., he must have taken the oath of office. We expect that in his speech, he will reach out to his opponents. He will try to extend an olive branch to them and to bring the country back together. He will also try to lay out what plans he has to revive the economy, which has been badly battered by the long electoral period.
Can you take us through the program for today, Sarah, if you are in possession of it, because we'd like to just get a sense in terms of what will happen during the course of the inauguration process?
Well, once President Uhuru Kenyatta gets here, he will inspect a guard of honor, and then he will immediately take the oath of office, which will be administered, surprise, surprise, by the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, who in the last few months has not been in the good books of the administration after the Supreme Court annulled President Kenyatta's first victory in August. But according to the law, he will the one who will administer the oath of office to President Kenyatta. After that, Deputy President William Ruto will also take the oath of office. Then after that, President Kenyatta will deliver his speech of the day, and the ceremony will be over. In between there will be interludes of entertainment by the various traditional dancers and groups that are here at the ceremony.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've touched on his vision for Kenya moving forward for this next term. What are some of the salient features in his vision for Kenya?
Well, President Kenyatta will definitely be talking about this is his last term, and so he wants to leave a legacy. So indeed, he will be addressing the issues that he may not have managed to tackle during his first term, the issues of runaway corruption in his administration and in the government, the issues of free education, which he has put as his agenda, the issue of increasing the number of people who can access free medical care or medical insurance. But we'll also be touching on the issue of unity. Remember when President Kenyatta and Deputy President William Ruto took over power in 2013, the two gentlemen were facing cases at the International Criminal Court due to crimes against humanity allegedly committed during the 2007-2008 post-election violence. Now that is already behind them, but because they brought two main communities that have not seen eye to eye politically for a long time, he'd want to see that he brings the country together, not just these two communities, but he leaves a legacy of uniting the country. Indeed, religious leaders have called on to him to use this time, his next 5 years, to unite the country. We will be waiting to see just how much of that he will discuss today and how much he will do to unite the country in the next 5 years.
Well, there's a lot to be looked forward to, isn't there, Sophie?
Yes, I saw President Ian Khama, who was in Zimbabwe on Friday, where he attended the inauguration of acting President Emmerson Mnangagwa, and President Khama leaving office next year. And we now see William Ruto. He's very happy. He's a happy man. I spoke to him during the elections. He indicated that both William Ruto and President Kenyatta, they will work very hard to unite the Kenyans. Him saying that they are going to ensure that they rebuild the economy. And this is the man many are saying Jubilee Party is likely to endorse to take over from Kenyatta if Jubilee does win the next election.
Do you perhaps see in the foreseeable future more talks between Raila Odinga and the President in perhaps forging a government of national unity?
Well, I'm not so sure about government of national unity, but what William Ruto told me when I did the interview with him during the after elections, he indicated that they are going to ensure inclusivity. Inclusivity in a sense that they will ensure that all different groups are accommodated in decision-making of government, perhaps at the technocrat level or at the cabinet level. In other words, I suspect within Jubilee Party, they will ensure that all the different ethnic groups are accommodated because they want to ensure inclusivity and unity amongst the Kenyans. But also they indicated that they will reach out to Raila Odinga, but I don't know in which form, whether accommodate some of his people in cabinet or just the discussions. particularly at government level, at technocrat level.
But as we see, people are there in Kenya very happy today. Flags are flying all over the place. Earlier on, we even saw a Mexican wave by the crowd there as well. So they seem to be very happy. So although we heard of some of the violence that's happening in the country, it seems there's a lot of people that are very happy about the inauguration.
You heard Sarah indicating earlier on that outside stadium mini stampede, because everybody wanted to go to the stadium. I think this is what you get when you are there and doing a story on the ground, that you have two different groups. You have those who are aggrieved, but you have those who are saying we want to move on, we have accepted the outcome of the election. And unfortunately, those who were saying we have accepted the outcome of the elections, we want to move on as Kenyans, didn't have a platform to express their views. Nobody organized marches and protests to say we support the outcome of the elections, because Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto took a decision not to mobilize their supporters to go out on the streets to demonstrate that they support them, because they didn't want conflict in the streets of Nairobi or any other part of Kenya. So you only had the opposition taking to the streets, and therefore it wasn't really a true reflection of Kenya in totality. You have people who are really aggrieved, who don't want Uhuru Kenyatta. You also have on the other side people who really say Kenyatta is the right man. Therefore, as a journalist, when you are on the ground, you know it's two groups. And the reality is it's two groups. It's not a one-way traffic.
Now, you were in Nairobi and we were in Kenya, we were covering that story. The sort of feel that you get from people on the ground, that do they see a new, brighter day for Kenya after this inauguration process?
Those who support Kenyatta believe that the future is bright, and they believe that he had already started with programs to change the lives of the Kenyans. But those who don't support him, particularly Raila Odinga supporters, feel that the issue of corruption wasn't properly addressed, and they feel very strong that they needed someone who can really look into the issue of corruption. And I think him coming in now, Kenyatta, this is the second term, he has got nothing to lose. If I was his political advisor, I would say you must ensure that you address the issue of corruption. People are concerned.
Sarah, the issue of corruption, you also touched on it a little bit earlier. What is this type of corruption? Is it government corruption, or what sort of corruption are we talking about that the president wants to really get rid of?
Well, he says he would want to get rid of high-level corruption, because a lot of Kenyans you'll speak to will tell you that the big fish are never ever prosecuted for corruption. And so a lot of people feeling that the government has not been able to do much. In fact, one of the times that President Kenyatta held a meeting at State House with the media about corruption, he said that the government has provided everything in its power to the authorities that are supposed to be dealing with issues of corruption, but they seem to be letting him down. And like Sophie says, he may decide to take that as his legacy and decide that he will take the bull by the horns and get a few big names prosecuted. That would indeed make people change the perception they have about President Kenyatta, or even previous administrations protecting people close to them who are seen to be corrupt or who are perceived to be corrupt. Because a lot of money has been lost in big mega scandals, and nobody has been brought to book.
Looking at the voter turnout, though, for the rerun, 38 or 39% of the voters turned out. He took 98% of that vote. Is that then a sense that 3/4 of Kenyans are not feeling aggrieved about his inauguration, though?
Not really. The problem there, you have a situation of the opposition leader who took a decision to pull out and encourages people to boycott the elections. But in the midst of all that and those calls, there was violence. So I think some of the Kenyans didn't go to the polls because they were scared. They didn't know what's likely to happen on that day. The issue of security played itself out. Of course, then you had those who took a conscious decision of boycotting elections, but That is the problem. It is for that reason now when you look at the stadium, it is packed to the rafters. But secondly, outside, people are jostling, you know, pushing. They want to get in. Because like I indicated, when we were in Kenya, the feeling we had, my observation was that the country is divided into two groups or two parts. One saying, we don't want Kenyatta, and the other saying we want Kenyatta. In terms of numbers, I don't know whether it's 50-50 or it's 35-45. It's very difficult. But the reality is the decision by the opposition leader to pull out send a wrong message to some people. People were scared. They were thinking there's going to be violence. You'd recall how international observers, everybody tried to persuade Raila Odinga not to incite violence, because people didn't know what's likely to happen. And based on the experience of the past, people had reasons to have those feelings or to fear, you know, to have fear or decide not to go to the polls because they don't know what's likely to happen.
Those supporters of Raila Odinga, Sarah, we talked about it earlier. You said that that particular march or the gathering was illegal. Has that march now been disbanded altogether?
Police have cordoned off the place where Odinga was supposed to hold his rally, and there have been a bit of confrontations with those who are already at the venue of the rally in the east of Nairobi. But police insist that that rally will not take place. Odinga, on the other hand, saying that the law allows to peacefully assembly, to hold peaceful protests. And so they're saying that by stopping them from holding the rally, the police and the government are breaking the law. The police say that the only function that will take place today is Kenyatta's inauguration. And they say in previous meetings or in previous times when the opposition has held protests, they have people have lost their lives or property has been lost. But Odinga says today's meeting is particularly to mourn people who have died during previous protests in the hands of police, giving a number of about 47, which we cannot independently confirm.
There are some of the pictures coming through, some of the dignitaries, some of the Chinese dignitaries as well there, Sophie. That link between China and Kenya also in relation to the financial outlook and the economic prosperity for Kenya, probably also part and parcel of that, why they're there.
You know, China is hard at work, particularly to ensure that there's huge investment coming to Africa. I would recall the China-Africa summit that was held in Johannesburg. President Kenyatta was there and many other African heads of state. So every event you always have a representative from China. You know, China is investing a lot of money on the continent and building the airports, building infrastructure, the rail transport. And it's no surprise that you see international community in large numbers there in Kenya. I mean, Kenya is an important country, particularly in East Africa.
Yes, and tourism is also, it's a large segment of the economy there. There's another arrival there from another dignitary coming through there. We'll tell you, we'll show you that picture now as soon as they emerge from that particular vehicle. But these are live pictures coming from Nairobi as we speak. These are live pictures coming through, as you can see. Dignitaries arriving where President Uhuru Kenyatta will be inaugurated today. We know that there's up to 20 heads of state that are expected at this event. Our International Relations Minister, Martin Okwane-Mashubani, will be present there. Museveni arriving.
Yes, the neighbor Uganda arriving, President Museveni, and here to support his counterpart. It's the same region, and I'm sure there's a song that was, you know, when we were there, that really took the country by storm. It said, Uhuru Ruto Tanu Tena. In other words, Tanutena State House to the State House. So indeed, they are both going to the State House, Uhuru and Ruto.
So what is the story about Ruto basically ascending to the presidency in 2022?
Well, there are reports that he is likely to be nominated to represent Jubilee, but apparently within Jubilee Party there are dynamics, and I think Sarah can elaborate, but Ruto, in terms of their succession within the Jubilee Party, many believe that he's likely to be the candidate for the Jubilee Party come next election.
Is that the sense that you're getting then, Kenya, for the next president of Kenya, Ruto, Sarah?
Yes, indeed. William Ruto is the man to beat come 2022 general elections. This is because if you look at how these election campaigns was run, the Deputy President William Ruto was at the center of the campaign, probably pushing very hard for a Kenyatta win, because he knew if Kenyatta takes this one, then it would be very easy for him to win. Indeed, when former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, who is the opposition leader, boycotted the election, Ruto started, trolling him and saying that maybe he can face me in 2022. And Ruto is known to be charismatic, he's known to be a perfect organizer, a teetotaler, a man of the people. And so a lot of people think that it will be very difficult to beat him, even within the Jubilee Party. Remember, he's bringing in 2 million, because Kenya votes along ethnic lines. He's bringing in a block of 2 million people, the Kalenjin community that he comes from. So it Kenyatta to now marshal the Kikuyu community and rally them behind Ruto. But Ruto has been seen to be an organizer. And already during this election, he has been able to place a lot of his supporters or a lot of his foot soldiers in the various constituencies and counties here in the country, where he knows he may have problems if he does not have his own people come 2022.
Now, Sarah, I believe that we have some visuals. We're going to look at those visuals now. These are some of the visuals earlier of the violence that happened outside the stadium. That was just before they brought it under control. Look at some of the soldiers carrying some of the people away from the scene there. And it seems like there was a lot of women even trapped underneath there. From your observation, Sarah, was that the type of scenes that we've seen, that it was very violent, and why were people sort of running away from the scene there, it looks like it?
Look, the police, the government had promised that the stadium can only take 60,000 people, because that's the capacity of the stadium. Now, the government said, if you still come to the stadium and you do not get a seat inside, we are going to have big screens outside where you can view and follow live the proceedings that will be taking place inside. But when they got here, there were no screens. And now, getting back home for them meant that they would be late to see the function. So a lot of them now trying to go through, them trying to break the gate just to gain access inside. However, police probably not being very good with crowd control and fire tear gas into the crowd. But you cannot blame them. This is a country that has faced serious security challenges, especially terrorism-related security challenges. And so the government would not allow anybody to get into the stadium without being vetted. And that's why you see there was that scuffle between the police and the supporters, or the people who had come to see, to witness here the events of today.
As you indicated earlier, Sophie, it seems like there's a lot more Kenyans that want the president in place and be inaugurated. And of course, that's why you have a capacity of 60,000 in the stadium and 200,000 people outside.
Exactly. I mean, Kenyans, some of them, not all, were tired of the standoff, and they wanted to carry on with life. And you know, it was beginning to affect the economy badly. And people losing jobs, businesses losing revenue. It was becoming a situation where the Kenyans themselves felt that this must come to an end. And I think that's the expression, to say we want to carry on, you know, in rebuilding our country.
There you have it, some of the pictures coming to you live from Nairobi in that packed stadium. The presenter now introducing probably some of the heads of state and some of the dignitaries that has arrived at the stadium. Indeed, a glorious day for Kenya.
Yes, earlier on we saw Ian Khama speaking to Salva Kiir, South Sudan president, and I wonder what is Khama saying. You know, he's always forthright, you know, with all the political shenanigans in South Sudan, the tension and almost the genocide playing itself there. I'm sure Khama wouldn't have kind words for Salva Kiir.
He's very forthright, and I'm sure you must have told him a thing or two about how this thing should be dealt with.
You know, when he was here in South Africa now recently for the SADC meeting, when we requested the interview, he said, "No, I'm not going to speak in a foreign soil because I'm a forthright person."
And that's why there's some leaders of the continent that's not very dear to him. But yeah, it's a glorious day as we look at the pictures coming through to us live. As you also heard from our reporter, Sarah said earlier that the violence has been curbed outside, people have been moved on, so the people probably have got now a place to see what's going on inside the stadium, where it's completely packed. There's not a place for a mouse as far. It's packed to the rafters, I can see there, Sophie.
It reminds me of Zimbabwe on Friday. The stadium was packed. Yes. Also an indication that Zimbabweans were saying we want to move on, and we have accepted the change. But I guess the challenge will be elections next year.
Next year, yeah. Now, I didn't see Mnangagwa arriving here. I'm not too sure if he's here today.
No, he's not there. He's not there. I guess he has to sort out the problems in Zimbabwe. You are aware that he has to set up cabinet. Yesterday he appointed a interim finance minister, Chinamasa, who was fired by Mugabe. And secondly, he reappointed the former foreign affairs minister because his intention is to implement as soon as possible the issue of rebuilding of the economy as per the request of the military. And to have a minister of finance was a critical issue, and also a person who can go abroad. You know, these days diplomacy is not political anymore or security anymore. It's economic diplomacy. You have to have a foreign affairs minister who's glued on economic issues, because every country is battling to rebuild the economy and to strengthen the economy. Therefore, you must have an experienced foreign affairs minister who can hit the ground running and on the economic diplomacy.
Talking about economy, Sarah, we also touched on it a little bit earlier. The economic situation in Kenya needs a bit of a push and a revival. Is that what the people expect from the new president, or the second term of the president?
Yes, in fact, indeed, that is the reason why a lot of people wanted the electoral period to be over and done with. Remember, the Kenyan government, the treasury here, has revised the GDP growth for this year from 5.7% to 5.1%, indicating that it could even go lower than 5%. And that would be the worst since the 2007-2008 post-election violence. That shows you just how far the country has come. And any time there is a political upheaval, then the economy is the first to be hit. This is an agricultural country, a country that depends heavily on agriculture. It has been a very dry season. So coupled with the long electoral period, the country is also going through a long dry spell, and that has also hit the economy hard. Now, another thing is that this country depends on tourism. The number of tourists coming into the country this year has reduced because the country has been in an electoral mode since May this year. And so Kenyans now wanting the country to get back on its feet so that tourists can come back, so that business people can start doing their business. So $700 billion is said to have been lost in the 5 months during the electoral period.
And now, tourism is normally linked with security. Has that been resolved as part and parcel of the problems that is facing Kenya?
Well, previously, now tourism was affected by issues of terrorism, but every time the country is going through a political season like what the country had, then tourism is also hit. But this time it was hit even harder because nobody anticipated that elections would drag on for 5 months and that the country would witness daily riots on the streets. Beginning August, and so a lot of money has been lost, a lot of hotels having to shut their doors and wait for the electoral period to end. What that means is that some people have had to be laid off until the country can get back on its feet.
Now, Sophie, Museveni, we've seen there as well as Kagame sitting side by side, but they're looking very stoic and just the one reading the paper and the other one. And I don't know if it's because of the elder statesman and the younger, or I don't know. What are you reading to that?
No, I looked at Kagame. He's so serious and he's sitting next to Khama. You'd recall recently Khama made utterances around leaders who don't want to hand over power. And I'm thinking whether it is for that reason Khama has decided just to communicate with Salva Kiir, completely ignoring Paul Kagame,
Yes.
you know, and you know the politics of Africa, you know.
So yeah, that could be part and parcel of the discussion. We also spoke to a former president of Botswana, and he says you can't, although he's 76 years old, you can't really speak to Museveni because he always got issues. He's got stories. Now there's another. I think that's the president arriving now. I might add. It looks like that is he. Yeah, that is him arriving. Yeah, I think.
Yes, this is the military car. Let's see, I guess...
There we go.
That's Uhuru.
That's Uhuru
Kenyatta. Kanutena to the State House.
There you have him in the vehicle, of course, protected vehicle there. You can see bulletproof and getting into the stadium and waving to the people. Wonderful reception there by the Kenyans of the president.
Yes, this is his last term.
And of course, as you indicated earlier, he will be preceded 2022 by William Ruto.
But a huge challenge to rebuild the country, particularly economically, and to unite the Kenyans.
And of course, security. We talked about that with Sarah as well. It seems like security is still an issue that needs to be resolved with the terror attacks, Al-Shabaab, based in that area.
Wanafunzi, nyorosha, zungusha mavuli, zungusha mavuli, peperusha bendera hizo, shangwe na vigelegele, zungusha mavuli wanafunzi, peperusha, asante zungusha, tukaribishe kwa shangwe na vigelegele. Karibu Mheshimiwa Rais mteule wa Jamhuri ya Kenya hapa katika uga wa Kasarani. Karibu. Karibu Mheshimiwa Rais. Peperusha bendera. Hizo bendera ongeza nuru. Shangwe na nderemo. Karibu sana Mheshimiwa Rais. Sasa mautani tuko namba wani. Mwavuli, zungusha. Zungusha mwavuli wanafunzi. Asante. Asante Maru. Asante. Tutulie wananchi, tutulie. Asante Maroon. Wananchi tutulie tafadhali. Kidogo wananchi tafadhali, kidogo. Haya, kidogo wananchi. Asante. Tutulie tafadhali kwa wimbo wa taifa. Tutulie bado, tutulie tafadhali. Tutulie, asante. Wimbo wa Jumuiya ya Afrika Mashariki.
Jumuiya Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, tutimize na malengo yetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tulinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, jumuiya yetu.
Tutulie kidogo wananchi tafadhali. Kidogo, excuse me. Kidogo tu, asanteni. Basi mkuu wa gwaride hivi sasa anakuja kumwomba kwa heshima Rais wetu mteule wa Jamhuri ya Kenya, Amiri Jeshi Mkuu wa majeshi yote ya ulinzi ya Kenya, aweze kuikagua gwaride hii. Asanteni, tunaweza kwa heshima kuketi. May be seated, ladies and gentlemen. Anasindikizwa na mkuu wa majeshi ya ulinzi ya Kenya, Jenerali Samson Mwathethe, na bendera ya kikosi. Angalia, hupewa heshima ya hali ya...
There's the Commander-in-Chief, the Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta, inspecting, of course, the guard of honor there, Sophie.
Yes, I think this is the time where he has to ensure that today, in his speech, he does reach out to those Kenyans who feel excluded, and to ensure that there's unity in Kenya. Kenya is an important country, I indicated for East Africa in particular, but also for the continent, for us to continue to maintain peace and stability on the continent. A country like Kenya is very important, particularly when you look at what's happening in the neighboring country in Somalia.
Yes.
Kenya must be stable for peace to reign in East Africa, but also on the continent. You look at South Sudan. I mean, Kenya is playing a prominent role to assist with peace and stability in South Sudan. You have Burundi, which is not far from Kenya, and we really can't afford a situation where you have Kenya, a powerhouse in East Africa, experiencing political instability.
And of course, there he goes, and walking through the rows and rows of soldiers for that inauguration process. That he'll probably take up his seat and do that speech after the inauguration. Sarah, you indicated earlier the Chief Justice will, of course, be swearing him in, and there was that sort of situation that he had with the Chief Justice. Looking at the situation today, and the number of dignitaries there, the sort of sense that you're getting, and when we look at the various dignitaries, especially the various presidents there, in fact, there's the crowd erupts again as he walks out after inspecting the guard of honor there.
And he's such an orator.
Yes.
I can't wait to hear his speech and his message, and I guess Esther can help us here. Esther, what you see behind us here, the pictures and the visuals, finally a moment where Kenyatta can set a pace or the agenda for the next coming years.
Yes, it's very exciting. I can see a lot of people that have shown up. Earlier we had reports about tear gas, and we were not sure what was going to happen, were people going to be allowed in, or how the stadium is going to be filled. But you can see how much support he's got.
Yeah, you
and
can
I'm
see
sure
that was actually resolved a little bit earlier, because apparently it was an over the crowd. There was 200,000 people outside and only 60,000 capacity that the stadium could carry.
Yes, yes.
And therefore that. But as a Kenyan, what do you see today? Is this a glorious day for Kenya, Esther?
I think it is. But it's sad that there's factions. It would have been a good day for all Kenyans to be united behind one person. Yes.
But it seems there's an outreach, Sarah, from the president, and of course, and hopefully that will come through in his speech today, in relation to all Kenyans to unite, because divided they will fall.
I think the president has got an uphill battle to unite all Kenyans.
So, Sarah, are you still there? Can you still hear us? Well, it looks like we've lost Sarah there, but let's just try if we can see if we can get Sarah again. But there's the president, Sophie.
Yes, you know, greeting all the dignitaries, Thabo Mbeki behind Vice President of Nigeria, and now he's greeting Edgar Lungu, the Zambian president, and unfortunately I can't see the flowers. I just want to see. You see Khama, typical Ian Khama, he's waiting. You can see, the flag now. But here's a nice picture. Yeah.
Oh, it was Museveni from Sudan.
Salva Kiir
now
from
Sudan.
It's Khama, it's Khama. Yeah, it's Khama. And now it's the neighbor,
Paul Kagame.
Rwanda. And the old man, Museveni.
Yes. One of the oldest leaders, and I'm sure there's also a leaf to be taken out of Robert Mugabe's book. I'm sure that Museveni is reading that very closely as well.
And Vice President William Ruto and the wife. You earlier on spoke about the Supreme Court.
Yes, the judge. And I wanted
judge.
To, yes.
You know, during the rerun, he did go to the polling station, and he did participate, and people were like, This is the man who called for rerun. He had to go and demonstrate that people must go and vote because he, in terms of the ruling, that yeah, the rerun must take place, and he had to demonstrate that.
Very good. Well, Huggy Geinkop and his wife there have been greeted. Yes.
The neighbor.
And indeed a glorious day there for Kenyans as he greets all the dignitaries on the stage there, as he goes through all of them one by one. And of course there's the president.
Yeah, now moving to his seat, walking to his seat.
Tutulie kidogo wananchi. Excuse me.
He's saying. Yes, tell us what he's saying.
Tutulie. Haya, sawa. Niliwaomba utulivu wenu tafadhali. Sawa, wananchi. Sawa.
The speaker there is asking for everyone to be quiet.
Asanteni.
To calm down.
Asanteni.
And Sarah saying the Kenyans are very peaceful.
Yes.
The Mexican wave.
There's the Mexican wave again in Kenya, yes? Yeah, you can see it's a packed stadium, yeah?
It is a packed stadium.
Ningependa kumkaribisha Bwana Peter Wanjohi aweze kuendelea na ratiba inayofuata. Karibu Wanjohi.
Okay, they are now inviting the Master of Ceremony, Mr. Wanjohi.
Asante sana. Naomba sote tutulie kwa maombi tukiongozwa kwanza na mzee Stephen Olenkaru kutoka kaunti ya Kajiado.
This is now a moment of prayer for everyone, being led by a traditional leader.
Naya rasaya, naira mayana namasho, naira mayana Kenya, naira mayana President Uhuru Kenyatta,
He's saying a prayer there in a vernacular language over the president.
African tradition.
I had a sense that the former president of the US will probably be there, Barack Obama.
Ataomba sasa Sheikh Rashid Ali Omar, naibu wa kadhi mkuu wa Kenya.
Sheikh Omar from the Islam
Let us pray. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Let us pray for our country. Allah bless and protect our nation against ill-natured occurrences and eventualities. Let us dwell in peace, cohesion, harmony, unity, and prosperity. Ya Rahim, with your benevolence, bestow upon the leader of this country, President Uhuru Kenyatta, and his deputy, William Ruto, the strength, wisdom, and insight in leading the nation toward progress and prosperity. Ya Hakim, enable our parliament to legislate plausible developmental laws. Almighty God, guide the judiciary in implementing the sustaining transformation framework so as to spur jurisprudential growth. In your name alone we pray.
Atatuongoza sasa kwa maombi ni Reverend Father Francis Rodriguez wa Catholic Archdiocese of Nairobi.
Catholic Father.
Lord God, we thank you for the gift of our nation and the gift of our people. This beautiful country you have enriched with hills and dales, forests, valleys, ravines, rivers, lakes, and the ocean. You bring us together from different backgrounds and different persuasions, and you build us as one people your people. In Kenya, we see your everlasting radiance of unfailing glory and majesty. We thank you for bringing us together today to experience the outpouring of your blessings on our President Uhuru Kenyatta and his Deputy William Ruto. Confirm them in your love and care. Let them be your servants who have come to serve and not to be served. Give them the strength to build this nation so that all can live in harmony and peace and congruence. We ask you this because you have loved us first. Ee Mungu Baba milele, tunakushukuru kwa zawadi ya nchi yetu Kenya. Tunakushukuru kwa amani na upendo uliotupa. Dumisha umoja kati yetu ili tuweze kupata maendeleo katika nchi yetu nzima. Tunaomba baraka yako juu ya rais wetu Uhuru Kenyatta na naibu wake William Ruto, waimarishe ili wafanye kazi ya kuongoza taifa letu kwa njia ya uaminifu, bidii na ukarimu. Uwape moyo wa kujitolea na moyo wa kushirikisha kila mwananchi katika kazi za kujenga taifa letu. Uweze kudumisha uhusiano mema kati yetu ili tuweze kuwa watu wa
The
taifa
Reverend
moja.
there is repeating the same prayer he had said in English. Now he's saying it in Swahili.
Tunakuomba baraka zako juu ya maisha yetu,
William
juu ya
Ruto
kazi
and
zetu,
Kenyatta,
ili tuwe
they
na
must
watu
serve,
wako
not
daima.
to be served.
Tunaomba
Yes.
hayo kwa njia ya Kristo Bwana wetu. Amina.
Na kwa sasa nitamwalika Askofu John Masinde
Now it's
wa
a
Deliverance
Bishop
Church
Masinde.
tumalizie kwa maombi.
Na tuombe. Let us pray together.
From the Anglican Church.
Father, we bless and thank you today for this great occasion that you have given our nation. We lift up His Excellency, our President Uhuru Kenyatta and his Deputy William Ruto, and we pray your grace and your favor and your power upon their lives. Give them wisdom, give them grace, that they may lead and guide this country from every corner of this country in a season of peace and grace. That people of Kenya shall be united, that the people of Kenya shall be blessed, the people of Kenya shall prosper. Lord, as we stand together in this august auditorium, we want to pray that in the name of Jesus, there shall be peace from the south to the north, from the east to the west, even to the center of our nation. And that every person in this country, whether a citizen or a visitor, shall live in peace and prosperity within our borders. That everyone within the borders of Kenya shall be safe and secure, because there shall be peace in every part of our nation. Just like our forefathers wrote in our national anthem and taught us to pray together, O Lord of all creation, bless this land and nation. Let justice be our shield and our defender. May we dwell in unity, peace and liberty. And Lord, plenty be found within our borders, because we pray this in the mighty name of our Lord Jesus Christ. And together we say, Amen. And again we say, Amen.
Asante sana Askofu. Your Excellency Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, President-elect of the Republic of Kenya, and Your Excellency Mama Margaret Kenyatta, Your Excellencies Heads of State and Government, Your Excellency the Deputy President-elect of the Republic of Kenya, Honorable William Ruto, and Your Excellency Mrs. Rachel Ruto, Your Excellencies Vice Presidents and Heads of Delegations, the Honorable Speakers of the National Assembly and the Senate, the Honorable Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court, viongozi wote na wananchi wa Jamhuri tuipendayo, mabibi na mabwana. Allow me, Your Excellencies, to now invite Duncan Okello of the Office of the Chief Justice to guide us through the swearing-in ceremony. Thank you, Your Excellencies.
Now the swearing-in begins.
Yes.
and the Chief Justice doing just that.
Yes.
Now, the Chief Justice, David Maraga, he will be doing in the swearing.
This marks the official swearing-in ceremony of the Deputy President and the President. And to guide us in that occasion will be the Chief Registrar of the Judiciary. I would like us to commence those proceedings by inviting Honorable Joseph Malobawere, Magistrate in the Office of the Chief Registrar, to place the mace in its position. And could we please be upstanding as the mace is being placed in its position?
Lots of tradition there, huh?
Yes. William Ruto smiling, Mrs. Kenyatta, Margaret Kenyatta, an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. May you please take your seats? The presence of the mace in front of us signifies the authority and presence of the judiciary. I now invite the Chief Registrar of the Judiciary, Honorable Anne Atieno Amadi, to take her position in the inauguration arena and administer the oaths.
Ladies and gentlemen, this ceremony is being conducted in accordance with Article 141(3) of the Constitution of Kenya, which provides that the President-elect assumes office by taking and subscribing to the oath or affirmation of allegiance and the oath or affirmation for the execution of the functions of office as prescribed in the third schedule of the Constitution. Section 13(2) of the Assumption of Office Act requires that the oath or affirmation be administered to the President-elect by the Chief Registrar before the Chief Justice, not earlier than 10 a.m. and not later than 2 p.m. And I hereby confirm that we are within the statutory timelines prescribed for this ceremony. May I now request the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, Honorable David Kenani Maraga, to take his place at the inauguration arena, and shall then proceed to introduce the President-elect to the nation. Chief Justice.
Your Excellency, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, President-elect of the Republic of Kenya, Your Excellency, Mama Margaret Kenyatta, Your Excellencies, heads of state and government here present, Your Excellency, the Deputy President-elect, Honorable William Ruto, Your Excellency, Rachel Ruto, Your Excellencies, Vice Presidents and heads of delegations, the honorable speakers of our parliament, wananchi watukufu, hamjambo. Whereas Uhuru Kenyatta was on the 30th of October 2017 declared as the duly elected President of the Republic of Kenya, pursuant to the provisions of Article 138(10)A of our Constitution, in the presidential election held on the 26th of October 2017, and whereas the chairman of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission delivered a notification of the result to the Chief Justice on the 1st of November 2017, the provisions of Article 138(10)B of the Constitution of Kenya. Therefore, I, David Kenani Maraga, the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, hereby introduce and wish to bring to the people of Kenya the President-elect, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta. Your Excellency.
Asante wananchi, tutulie.
The decision that
I would now like
And now it's been chosen by the Chief Justice, yes?
I would now like to request the Chief Registrar of the Judiciary to proceed to administer the oaths of office on the President-elect and place the arena for the administration of the oath of allegiance and the oath of the due execution of the office, the Chief Registrar.
So, Mr. President, we'll begin with the first oath, which is the oath of allegiance. I'll ask you to lift the Bible with your right hand and place your left hand on the Constitution. Please repeat after me. I,
Uhuru Kenyatta,
in full realization of the high calling I assume as President of the Republic of Kenya,
I assume as President of the Republic of Kenya,
do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Republic of Kenya, that I will obey, preserve, protect and defend the Constitution of Kenya,
protect and defend this Constitution of Kenya
as by law established, and all other laws of the Republic,
and that I will protect and uphold and that I will protect and uphold
the sovereignty, integrity, and the dignity of the people of Kenya.
And dignity of the people of Kenya.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President-elect, I shall now administer the oath of due execution of the functions of office of the President. Silence, please. So we will take the second oath, which is the oath of due execution of the functions of office of the President. Please place lift the right hand up, and please repeat after me. I,
Uhuru Kenyatta,
do swear that I will always truly and diligently serve the people and the Republic of Kenya, that I will diligently discharge my duties and perform my functions in the office of President of the Republic of Kenya, and that I will do justice to all, in accordance with this Constitution, as by law established, and the laws of Kenya, without fear, favor, affection, or ill will. So help me God.
So help me God.
Now, having taken the two oaths of office, Mr. President, you may now proceed to the signing table to append your signature. Honorable Chief Justice, you may also take your seat. Is there one for the President?
Start with this one.
There's the signing ceremony
He's
now.
Seated at his signing table so that the oaths can be signed by the President. He's appending his signature to the first oath, the oath of allegiance of office. That oath has 77 words, and the word Republic of Kenya appears 4 times in that oath. And the theme that runs in that oath is protection, defense, promotion of the Constitution, as well as upholding the dignity of the people of Kenya. The President is now appending his signature to the second oath, the oath of due execution of office for President. That oath has 79 words. The words Republic of Kenya appears 4 times in that oath. And in that oath for due execution of office for the President, the oath commits the President to diligently serve the people of Kenya and perform his functions in accordance with the Constitution and do justice to all. The third document that the President is appending his signature to is the certificate of inauguration, which confirms that this ceremony is taking place here today, and that certificate of inauguration is a product of Section 13(3) of the Assumption of Office Act. The Honorable the Chief Justice is also appending his signature to the three documents. First, the oath of allegiance of office. Second is the oath of due execution of office for President. And the third document that the Chief Justice is appending his signature to is the certificate of inauguration. The President has completed the signing ceremony. The Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya is currently appending in signatures to the last set of those three important instruments. Once the certificate of inauguration, the oath of office, and the oath of due execution have been signed by the Chief Justice, they shall be sealed using the official seal of the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya and President of the Supreme Court. The Chief Justice is signing the last of the three documents, which is the certificate of inauguration. As I said, the oath of allegiance has 77 words. The oath of due execution of office for President has 79 words. The recurring theme is defense of the Constitution, serving the people of Kenya, doing justice to all, promoting integrity and sovereignty of the Kenyan people. The commitment to preserve the Republic is evidenced by the fact that in both oaths, the Republic of Kenya appears not less than 4 times. Let me also just notify the public that the official Bible that we've used for the swearing-in ceremony today is the Bible that was used by the first President of the Republic at independence. Let me also notify the public that the Constitution that we've used today was the Constitution that was promulgated at Uhuru Park on the 27th of August, 2010. That copy of the Constitution is in the custody of the Chief Justice. The Chief Justice has finished countersigning, and the certificates are being sealed by the official seal of the Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court of Kenya. The documents are being sealed by the court officials in the presence of the Chief Justice and the Chief Registrar. Signatures have been signed. The seal has been placed in its position. I now hand over to the Chief Registrar to continue.
President of the Republic of Kenya and the Chief Justice to take their place in front of the mace for the presentation of the 2 oaths and the certificate of inauguration to His Excellency the President.
Wananchi, it is now my pleasure to bring before you the President of the Republic of Kenya.
Signed the documentation, sealed and signed, showing it to the population. Yes.
We already had a meeting with the committee that deals with economic issues, and he is going to meet the team as soon as he's done, because he wants to rebuild the country.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ladies and gentlemen, we now move to the swearing-in ceremony for the Deputy President-elect. And I request the Chief Justice once more to take his place at the inauguration arena and proceed to introduce the Deputy President-elect to the nation. Chief Justice.
William Ruto, the man who's likely to succeed Uhuru Kenyatta, should the Jubilee Party finally agree.
William Samoei Ruto was on the 30th of October 2017 declared as the duly elected Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya pursuant to the provisions of Article 138(10)A of the Constitution of Kenya in the presidential election held on the 26th of October 2017, and whereas the chairman of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission delivered a notification of the result to the Chief Justice on the 1st of November 2017, pursuant to the provisions of Article 138(10)B of the Constitution, I therefore, David Kenani Maraga, the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, do hereby wish to introduce to the people of Kenya the Deputy President-elect, Honorable William Samoei Ruto.
He was the campaign strategist. He was all over the country working very hard, leading the way to assist
I would now
Kenyatta
like to request the Chief Registrar of the Judiciary to proceed to administer the oaths of office, and I invite the Deputy President-elect to take his place at the inauguration arena for the administration of the oath of allegiance and the oath of execution of office. The Chief Registrar.
Which one did you want to use, this one? Okay, I'll ask the Deputy President to lift the Bible with the left hand and place with the right hand and place the left hand on the Constitution. And we'll begin with the first oath, which is the oath of allegiance of the Deputy President. Kindly repeat after me. I,
William Samoei Ruto,
in full realization of the high calling, I assume as Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya.
I assume as Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya.
Do swear that I will be faithful.
Do swear that I will be faithful.
And bear true allegiance.
And bear true allegiance.
To the Republic of Kenya.
To the Republic of Kenya.
That I will obey.
That I will be.
I will obey.
I will obey.
Preserve.
Preserve.
Protect and defend this Constitution of Kenya.
Protect and defend this Constitution of Kenya.
As by law established.
As by law established.
And all other laws of the Republic.
And all the laws of the Republic.
And that I will protect.
And that I will protect.
And uphold.
And uphold.
The sovereignty.
The sovereignty.
Integrity and dignity.
Integrity and dignity.
Of the people of Kenya.
Of the people of Kenya.
So help me God.
So help me God.
We shall now take the second oath. We shall now take the second oath, which is the oath of due execution of office for Deputy President. We'll do the same thing with your hand on the Constitution. And please repeat after me.
I, William Samoei Ruto,
do swear
that
I will always, truly and diligently serve the people and the Republic of Kenya in the office of the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, that I will diligently discharge my duties and perform my functions in the said office to the best of my judgment, that I will at all times, when so required, faithfully and truly give my counsel and advice to the President of the Republic of Kenya, that I will do justice to all, without fear, favor, affection or ill will, and that I will not directly or indirectly reveal such matters as shall come to my knowledge in the discharge of my duties and committed to my secrecy. So help me God.
So help me God.
Having taken the two oaths, I now ask the Deputy President-elect to take your seat at the signing table for signing. Honorable Chief Justice, please take your seat.
Busy day for the Chief Justice.
Yes, yes.
Signatures to the two oaths of office. The first one was the oath of allegiance to the office of the Deputy President, which in terms of wording is exactly the same as the one that the President had taken. He is also appending his signature to the oath of due execution of office for the Deputy President, which is slightly longer than the one the President took. It is 121 words, as opposed to the one the President took, which is 79 words. The Deputy President's oath of due execution of office for the Deputy President's office is therefore 42 words longer than that of the President. Part of the reason is, when you look at the text of the oath, the Deputy President commits himself to giving the President counsel and advice. It also commits the Deputy President not to directly or indirectly reveal any secrets that may come in his possession by virtue of that office. That is why the oath of due execution for the office of Deputy President is much longer. The Chief Justice is also appending his signature to the two oaths that the Deputy President has just taken, the oath of allegiance, the office, and the oath of due execution. Unlike the President, the certificate of inauguration It does not apply to the office of the Deputy Chief Justice. The one that the President had taken serves the two offices. These oaths are extracted from our Constitution. They are being done in conformity with Article 141 of the Constitution of Kenya, and the oaths are reproduced in the third schedule of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. Let me notify the public that the Deputy President used the Protestant Bible to take the oath, but the Constitution that was used was the Constitution that was promulgated on 27th of August 2010 at Uhuru Park. The Chief Justice is appending his signature to the last set of instruments that the Deputy President has used.
President William Samuel Ruto, may I invite you to come forward and receive the oaths from the Chief Justice.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my pleasure to present to you the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya.
Congratulations. This marks the end of the official swearing-in ceremony for His Excellency the President Uhuru Kenyatta and His Excellency the Deputy President William Samuel Ruto. Thank you all. Congratulations. God bless you.
As the judiciary mace is lowered to mark the end of the official swearing ceremony, Mr. Were. Could we please take our seats, and let me invite Mr. Wanjohi of State House to take over for the photo session. Mr. Wanjohi.
Asante sana. Naomba kwa heshima tuwe na kipindi cha picha rasmi. Picha ya kwanza.
Mr. Wanjohi is asking for a session, a photo session
na
at the moment.
msajili wa mahakama. May I invite Your Excellency to the front so that we can take that photo most kindly.
Well, there you have it. That's the photo session going to take place now with the newly elected President, the Chief Justice, and of course the Registrar.
Nitaomba sasa Mheshimiwa Naibu wa Rais aungane nao kwa picha ya pili. Your Excellency the Deputy President for the second photo.
Some few months ago, the South African Chief Justice had to issue a strong statement after Ruto and Kenyatta attacked the judiciary. But today, it is all smiles.
Tuwe na picha ya tatu ya Mheshimiwa Rais na Mheshimiwa Naibu wa Rais.
Tatu, you know,
pamoja na Mheshimiwa Margaret Kenyatta na Mheshimiwa Rachel Ruto.
As in tatu, you know, it's Swahili.
Yes.
You know, you can pick up some words that are linked to us.
Well, there they are now with their wives, and of course the documents that they've signed to protect the country and of course to make sure that the people of Kenya can prosper.
Asante sana. Nitaomba sasa Mheshimiwa Naibu wa Rais, Mheshimiwa Margaret Kenyatta na Mheshimiwa Rachel Ruto waweze kuketi ili tuweze kuendelea na sehemu nyingine
the next session to go on.
Wapiga picha
Rais
sasa tuondoke
President.
tuweze kuendelea na sehemu inayofuata.
Basi mabibi na mabwana, tusimame tafadhali hivi sasa kwa fanfare, wimbo wa taifa na mizinga 21. Mabibi na mabwana, fanfare.
I heard fanfare there. Is it the fanfare of the crowd?
Yes. Mabibi na mabwana, ladies and gentlemen, let's stand up.
Well, there you have it. There's
The
also
fanfare.
the confetti going up. It's all happening there in Kenya. The national anthem will be sung now. And yes, it's a glorious celebration.
Tutulie kidogo. Tutulie kabisa.
He's asking everyone to calm down so that they can sing the national anthem now.
Tutulie.
And on that note, we are going to give a hand over to the next team that will take over. That's the midday team to take over from us here on the newsroom. Esther and Sophie will be staying in their hot seats here, taking us through the inauguration process until the speech, of course, of the president. From myself, Elvis Preston, ciao for now. Arrivederci.
Tutulie. Tutulie. Asanteni. Tutulie hivyo hivyo. Tutulie kidogo. Basi baada ya shangwe kwa rais wetu wa Jamhuri ya Kenya, Amiri Jeshi Mkuu wa Majeshi yote ya Ulinzi, mkuu wa gwaride hivi sasa anakuja kuweza kuomba ruhusa ama idhini
they're coming to get permission from the president for the guard of honor. He's now asking the president for them to leave.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Rais, mabibi na mabwana, tunaweza kuketi tafadhali. May you have our seats, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Bendera ya kikosi ilivyo desturi sharti kuwa mbele ya gwaride kama vile unavyoshuhudia kala officer.
Everyone is going to move from the field now.
Baada ya gwaride kufana, wanajeshi hawa wanaenda kujiunga na wenzao katika kuimarisha usalama wa taifa letu.
Right, well, if you've just joined us, this is the Midday Report, and we are broadcasting live.